I remember trying to breathe through the pain, whispering, "Mom, I can't. I need a hospital." She turned around, completely calm, and said, "Hold on. I'm running into PetMart to get Bruno's treats. He's out." She walked through those bright glass doors while my vision blurred and a sharp, tearing pain ripped through my stomach. Something inside me burst. And when I woke up in the ICU, I understood one thing clearly. This time, I wasn't staying silent. My name is Maya Ellison, I'm 15, and I live in Windale, a small town where everyone pretends everything is fine even when it's not. My mother, Lydia, has always looked at me like I reminded her of something she wanted erased. My stepfather, Travis, treats me like an obligation, not family. And Ariel, my 16-year-old half-sister, is adored to the point she believes the world rotates on her schedule. The real star of the house, though, isn't Ariel, it's Bruno, the golden retriever who is treated like royalty. I've always known I wasn't a priority, but that day, I finally understood I ranked below even a dog. And from that moment, something in me began to crack. The pain started in English class, dull, then sharp enough to make me fold over my desk. Cold sweat soaked through my shirt as I typed into our family group chat, "I'm in a lot of pain, can someone pick me up?" Nobody read it. 20 minutes later, Ariel replied, "Stop being dramatic. I'm trying on prom dresses." My mom followed with, "Maya, are you faking it to skip school?" I didn't even have the strength to argue. My teacher eventually called the office to request someone pick me up. I had no idea that moment would be the start of the worst day of my life. Travis arrived 31 minutes later, irritated as if I had interrupted something important. I climbed into the car shaking while Ariel live-streamed her new dress, giving me dirty looks. A stabbing pain tore through my side, forcing me to gasp. I begged, "Please, the hospital," but Ariel snapped, "Don't throw up on my dress." Travis glared at me through the mirror, "You're not skipping a test, right?" My mother turned toward me with that cold, familiar look, part suspicion, part annoyance. "Stop acting," she said. "I know when you're exaggerating." I thought we were headed to the hospital, until the turn signal clicked and the car pulled into PetMart. I stared in disbelief as Ariel squealed, "Perfect. Bruno's out of treats." My mom nodded seriously, as if that was an emergency. "We need to get them now. He's been stressed." I whispered, "I'm going to pass out," but Mom just stepped out of the car and said, "Wait a few minutes. I'm grabbing Bruno's treats." She locked the doors, leaving me inside like luggage. Through the glass, I watched them stroll into the store, laughing, browsing, never looking back. The next wave of pain didn't just hurt, it felt like something tore open inside me. Heat shot through my abdomen, my vision dimmed, and I tried calling out but no sound came. Outside, my mom held up a bag of bone-shaped treats while Ariel compared collars, and Travis checked his watch for a basketball game. None of them saw me collapse against the seat. My world narrowed to a pounding heartbeat and shallow breaths. I remember thinking, if I die right now, would any of them notice? Then everything went black. I woke up to white lights, the smell of antiseptic, and machines beeping. A nurse said, "You're in the ICU. Your appendix ruptured. You got here just in time." I managed to whisper, "My mom," but the look she gave me said everything. My family hadn't told the truth about anything. And that was the moment I knew, if I wanted to survive, I had to save myself. I lay in the ICU bed with tubes in my arm and bandages wrapped tight around my abdomen, every slight movement sending a sharp burn through me. The nurse told me I'd been brought in by a man I didn't know, not by my family. Hearing that made my chest tighten. He'd found me collapsed in the locked car while my mom and Travis were still inside PetMart shopping for dog treats, and he'd immediately called 911. My mother? She showed up nearly 2 hours after my emergency surgery, offering a flimsy excuse about thinking it was just a stomach ache. Even the doctor looked at her like he couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. She wasn't sorry. She was scared of consequences. Later, a social worker came to speak with me. They asked if I was often ignored, if what happened at PetMart was the first time. Hearing those questions felt like someone reading pages I'd kept locked away for years. I didn't want to accuse my mother, but I couldn't keep protecting her. I told them about the times I was sick and told to deal with it, about how Ariel was always favored, and how Travis treated me like an inconvenience. When I explained how my mother locked the car and left me struggling to breathe, the social worker put her pen down and stared at me with something like heartbreak. "Maya," she said softly, "you don't deserve this." It was the first time someone had ever said those words to me. That afternoon, my mom and Travis burst into the room angry, not concerned, not relieved, angry. My mom started in immediately, "You blew everything out of proportion." She blamed the school for calling, the doctor for overreacting, and the social worker for trying to break up families. Travis claimed I let outsiders meddle in private matters. Ariel stood at the door, arms crossed, glaring at me like I'd ruined her week. I tried to sit up, but pain shot through me. Then my mother said the sentence that crushed whatever hope I had left: "If anyone asks, you tell them you were not left alone in that car." Understand? She wasn't protecting me. She was protecting herself. The doctor walked in then, and everything changed. He stated plainly that I arrived dangerously late, that another delay could have been fatal, and that I couldn't have walked into the hospital on my own. He looked straight at my mother. "Someone left this child in a life-threatening state." My mother stammered, insisting it was a misunderstanding, but he wasn't buying it. I'd never seen a grown adult defend me like that. Ariel muttered, "This is so dramatic," and Travis looked away, refusing eye contact. But the truth was out, and they couldn't pull it back in. Later, the nurse returned to check on me and unexpectedly sat by my bed. She told me the man who found me stayed until they took me into surgery. He refused to leave until he knew I was safe. But when my mother finally arrived, she blamed him for interfering. He'd stood up for me, telling the doctors no child deserved to be abandoned like that. The nurse squeezed my hand and said something that broke me open: "Maya, you deserve people who care about you. If your family won't, let others help." For the first time, I didn't feel completely alone. And I couldn't stop wondering, why would a stranger care about me more than my own family? The next day brought another shock. The social worker said they'd contacted my biological father. The man I'd been told abandoned me before I was born. They said he reacted strongly when he heard what happened and wanted to see me immediately. My heart raced at fear, curiosity, hope all tangled together. If he cared, maybe the story I'd been told my whole life was a lie. But I also knew my mother wouldn't allow this without a fight. She cared more about her image than my well-being. And suddenly, I understood something. I wasn't just a victim of neglect. I was the biggest threat to their facade. When the social worker told my mother my biological father wanted to see me, she nearly unraveled. She stormed into the hospital room with a mix of shock and rage, as if the fact that I'd almost died mattered less than her secrets coming to light. She insisted I shouldn't listen to strangers, and that he had abandoned us from day one. But the panic in her eyes betrayed everything. She wasn't worried about me, she was terrified of the truth resurfacing. Travis stood behind her, claiming our family was being invaded by outsiders. Ariel looked at me like this was the most entertaining chaos she'd ever seen. I lay there weak, but clearer than ever. My mother wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing control. I didn't know what to expect when my father walked in, but I definitely didn't expect familiarity. He looked to be in his early 40s, breathless as if he'd rushed all the way there, his eyes full of fear and relief at the same time. When he saw me, his face softened, like 15 years of memories hit him at once. He said my name gently, "Maya." And something in me broke. My mother immediately cut in, claiming I didn't want to see him, but he didn't look at her. He asked me directly, "Do you want to talk?" I didn't know why, but I nodded. And the look on my mother's face, anger, defeat, desperation, burned into my memory. We talked in a small conference room with a social worker outside the door to prevent interruptions. He told me he never abandoned me. My mother shut him out completely. She moved, changed numbers, blocked every attempt he made to contact me. He explained that he didn't have legal rights at the time and she made sure he couldn't be part of my life. Hearing that was like hearing glass shatter inside my chest, every memory, every narrative I'd been given twisted into something new. He apologized for not being there, but he told me something no one in my household ever had: you deserve love. You don't deserve to be treated like this. I cried because it was the first unconditional support I'd ever felt. When my mother learned he'd told me the truth, she completely lost it. She barged into my room yelling that I was betraying the family and letting outsiders tear us apart. Travis nodded behind her like everything unraveling was somehow my fault. Ariel, predictably, filmed it on her phone for sympathy points online. But something inside me had changed. I said, I'm not betraying anyone. I'm telling the truth. She froze. I'd never stood up to her before. But almost dying in a locked car teaches you silence won't save you. A social worker entered right as my mother's shouting escalated and asked her to leave the room immediately. My mom screamed they had no right to remove her and that she was my mother. The worker responded calmly but firmly, being a mother means protecting your child. You didn't. The room fell silent. Travis tugged her out the door, but she stared at me with the eyes of someone losing a battle, not a mother worried about her child. I realized then this wasn't about neglect anymore. It was about exposing who actually cared about me. And for once, I wasn't on the losing side. That night, my father stayed beside me, dozing off in the chair but waking any time I moved. He told me he wanted to petition for temporary custody so I could stay with him while the investigation continued. His voice didn't shake from anger, only concern. He wanted me safe. And after what happened, I couldn't imagine going back to that house. I had come too close to dying once. I wasn't going to risk it again. So I said yes. And it felt like opening a door I never thought I'd be allowed to touch. The morning after I agreed to stay with my father temporarily, the hospital felt unusually quiet. That calm didn't last long. Ariel's footsteps echoed before she even opened the door. She walked in wearing a pitying expression that didn't match her annoyed tone. You know, she said, things would be easier if you didn't blow everything up. My prom is basically ruined. I stared at her, stunned. I had nearly died, my family was falling apart, my biological father had reappeared, and all she cared about was prom. I finally said, if a dance means more to you than someone's life, then Mom raised you exactly how she wanted. For once, Ariel had nothing to say. Later that afternoon, the social worker returned and told us the emergency hearing would take place in 2 days. My mother reacted instantly, demanding lawyers, demanding to get her daughter back. But when the court required written statements from everyone involved, the cracks widened. Travis insisted it was a miscommunication and that I overreacted. But the testimony from the man who saved me, who saw me unconscious in the locked car, destroyed their version of events. The doctors confirmed the timing of my rupture aligned exactly with how long I was left alone. The social worker documented every inconsistency and contradiction. I had never seen my mother so shaken, not apologetic, just terrified her story wouldn't hold. The night before the hearing, my father slept near my bed again, half awake every time I shifted. I watched him through the dim room, trying to understand how someone who wasn't there my whole life could feel more like family than the people who raised me. He opened his eyes and said quietly, Maya, you don't owe anyone your silence. That hit something deep inside me. I had stayed quiet my whole childhood to avoid conflict. But there had never been real peace, only avoidance. And now, I wasn't the one who should feel guilty. The hearing took place in a small courtroom lit by harsh fluorescent lights. My mother entered first, posture stiff, hands trembling slightly despite her attempt to appear composed. When the judge asked me to speak, my voice trembled at first, but every word was clear. I told exactly what happened, the pain, the begging, the turn into PetMart, the locked doors, collapsing in the car. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. My mother tried to interrupt, saying I misremembered, but the judge shut her down. Then he said the words that ended everything: a mother does not prioritize a dog over a child in a medical emergency. If you cannot understand that, you do not understand motherhood. My mother's face crumbled as if the ground had fallen out from under her. By the end of the hearing, the judge granted temporary custody to my father pending further evaluation. Travis tried to argue but had no footing. Ariel cried, not for me, but for the family falling apart. My mother stood motionless, clutching her purse, unable to meet my eyes. When I walked past her, she whispered, Maya. I'm sorry. But it wasn't an apology to heal me. It was the apology of someone who had finally lost control. As my father and I stepped out of the courthouse, the wind hit my face with a strange, soft weight, freedom. I didn't know what the future would look like or whether my father and I would build something real. But for the first time, I wasn't walking into a home where I had to be invisible. As we drove away, sunlight stretched across the road, and I realized something simple but powerful. I was finally starting a life where I wasn't the person left behind for a dog. A life where I mattered. A life where I could breathe.